Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Red Bull Battlegrounds Day 2. It is Championship Sunday, and we have our next quarterfinal match between SaSe and SKMC. Two huge crowd favorites. Now, of course, I want to begin, SaSe, with you asking, in terms of PvP, we've seen some crazy builds out of you against Terran and Zerga this tournament thus far. Do you have any special builds prepared for MC?
I don't know, he's as crazy as me, so it can go either way, I guess.
Now, in your previous matches, you were having a lot of confidence against the Terran players. I know that you had some funky games against Chef. Is there a matchup that you were feeling concerned about in the group stages that you feel concerned about heading into the playoff Sundays?
Not really. Against Chet, I was already #1 for sure in my group, so I didn't show my real builds, and hopefully I can show them against Stefano.
Oh, yeah. And of course, I want to ask, against a player like MC who's known for this really unpredictable style of play, is there a special way you prepare for it or a mindset you have going into the game?
It's hard to say. Like, I thought about some things, and hopefully it will work.
Well, hopefully indeed, because MC is just the craziest Protoss other than you. Is there any prediction you have for the best of 3 results?
I didn't come here to predict, I came here to play, so that's what I will do.
Oh, yes. Now, MC, you're going up, up against your opponent, SaSe, and you narrowly made it out of your group. How confident are you feeling in your Protoss versus Protoss?
프로토스전 지금 얼마나 자신 있는지.
100%. But I think my opponent is not SaSe because we are friends and we are Protoss from Ayer. So I hope if who win next round, I hope kill Stefano because he is sure and really imba. Yeah. Okay, SaSe? Yeah? Got it? Okay.
The true enemy not even in the game. It's like watching Independence Day where humanity has to unite to fight the aliens. But unfortunately, they can't do it with a virus. So, I want to follow up by asking, since asking for predictions has not gone well in these interviews, is there anything you'd like to say to SaSe before you engage in that quarterfinal match?
사스와 경기하기 전에 무슨 하고 싶은 말이 있는지.
Good luck.
Well, players, shake hands. Good luck to both of you. And we are about to head into quarterfinal #2. And we do have Violet vs. Squirtle still hot and on over on the other stream. Tune into both. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Red Bull Battlegrounds here, Day 2 in Austin, Texas. I'm Day 9.
And I'm Rob Simpson. And up next, we are going to be watching SaSe versus MC in what is bound to be an explosive PvP.
I mean, the funniest thing to me of all is that it sounds like both players are more focused on Stefano
Than their actual
match. But that doesn't mean that they don't get to play it. We still make them play. It will be a PvP beginning on Ohana, which is a pretty interesting map. It is 2-player. You get to scout right off the bat. And with all the sort of craziness going on in PvP, I think it's going to be kind of somewhat unpredictable for both players.
Well, especially because both of these players are known for mixing up their play constantly anyway. So in addition to the fact there's just, I mean, a lot of variations happening in PvP, both of these players were pioneers in making that happen.
And as you can see just from the matchup stats, it is a little bit favoring Protoss in the non-mirror matchups. And there haven't really been enough games played to say definitively one way or the other, but a lot of Protosses are just comfortable because of the number of gas expansions that they can get safely. Those first 3 bases are tucked very cleanly against that backside, and your natural just has such an easily defendable natural.
Right, and they're pretty much going to be able to force any engagement to a favorable situation for them because their opponent has to enter into a really awkward choke if they want to try pushing on any of those bases.
But as you can see from this map design, the biggest thing that's going to cause the mid-game to get weird is the fact that there's that circular middle. You can defend for as long as you want, but you have to choose the left lane to go across or the right lane So there's a lot of run-around action that we see on this map frequently. So let's go ahead and introduce our players. Let's begin with Quantic SaSe. I mean, Rob, you've even gotten a chance to cast some of his games. He is just so weird in terms of his play.
He is, and that was something that we actually emphasized quite a bit at the most recent Red Bull LAN as well in Orlando, is that he is just always trying so many different things. You can see on there that he actually got second place. Oh no, that's
That is
Orlando.
Red Bull LAN Orlando,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
The
The
first-
one confused me because there was the
Oh,
Santa
this
Monica.
is the first one of the year.
Aha, 2012.
Either that or we're in a computer programming language. We begin with 0. Nerd jokes, great. Now, if you see it in the bottom, he has plays the macro style, heavy harass, warp prism based play. Even uses it in the PvP matchup.
Yeah, and as you can see, it actually works out to his success at least a little bit. His versus Protoss, we can see the numbers don't really reflect how strong he is in this matchup.
I mean, it's kind of one of those funny things where those win percentages are always based upon the players you wind up playing, and SaSe is up against some of the best of the best of the best. And I also want to point out that he's one of the players who's really good at, I would say, metagame considerations. He's very good about saying, okay, well, this player plays a little bit this way. I'll be a little bit more aggressive. Like against Thorzane, very warp prism, harass heavy. Against players who are a little bit too aggressive, he's very good at defensive play. He's so flexible. And I think most interestingly of all, he said that he didn't reveal his real build in PvZ to save against Stefano.
Which should mean that he'll have, I mean, he always has tricks up his sleeve. Now, in this case, I'm not sure how much preparation he can actually do against MC, because as he said, MC is the only player that plays as crazy as him.
Yeah, I mean, MC, if you just look at his achievements, it is miraculous, the consistency that he has had. Winning 2 GSLs, getting second at MLG Orlando, winning the Home Story Cup, winning IEM Season 6 against Puma. I mean, taking an NASL against, or getting second in NASL against Puma. I mean, his statistics are just mind-blowing. Look at those matchup percentages, all of them close to 70%.
Yeah, that's right. In MC's case, his statistics do actually tell the story about how good he is in all of his matchups. And as it says down there, his strong mechanics and his blink micro, man, he can just be so sick with those stalkers.
And I think one of the most interesting aspects about MC is that he's always comfortable going all in.
Yes, not afraid at all. And most recently, like initially when MC was blowing up, I guess you could say, we really just saw him do a lot of two-base play, right? He would just wait for his opponent to be weak enough and then form it all in however he wanted. But now we're actually seeing just how strong he can be moving into those late game scenarios as well.
Yeah, and you almost have to envision your opponent with the information that you have. He's not doing just one strategy. He's doing a range of possible strategies. Like in the last game we just casted in Stefano versus Parting. We saw Parting with that early robo. It could be this two-base all-in, or it could be this early expand. And you're not battling against a strategy, you're battling against that range. And I think that of all players, MC has some of the broadest ranges in the game, with an all-in here, or maybe an all-in here, or maybe a huge macro game here. Maybe I'll go Colossus, maybe I'll go Air. We've even seen him do some mass Speed Zealot against Zerg. I mean, just a full gamut of Protoss strategies.
Which is actually, like, Speed Zealots are actually very sick in that matchup. We talk a lot about the Zealot Archon combo as well. It's just so sick.
Yeah, and it looks like we're just making sure that all the PC issues are resolved, because the players, of course, don't want to play with no mouse.
Right. I guess they'll have to use their computers in order to make this match happen.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the current bracket while we're waiting for the players to finish setting up, to just sort of investigate what the current status of affairs is. Stefano managing to take down Parting 2-0. Look down at the bottom, Rob.
Yeah, it seems that Violet isn't having as much luck as Stefano had in his DVP. Squirtle's taken game one. That must have been a really long game one.
Yeah, our series between Stefano and Parting was done, and then I walked over to Squirtle Violet, who started before Stefano Parting, and they had just finished game one, apparently playing extremely long games.
Which is generally, I mean, Violet we've seen repeatedly. You talk about how aggressive he is, and he always wants to just get into that end game. I wish we could have seen exactly how the end of that game finished up. Now, Squirtle, though, always hitting his stride. We saw that in the beginning of the event yesterday, as you said, he did almost lose to Rhett, and so he was off to a bit of a rough start, but now that he's hit his stride, it seems like he's in a good place.
And you know, I even do want to talk a little bit about that feeling of bumpiness and lack of confidence can just have such a devastating influence on your play. Because if you think about the hundreds of decisions you have to make in a StarCraft game, if you have that slight little bit of misconfidence, it's going to cause one blunder. And a slight little bit of misconfidence is going to cause another blunder. And they add up so fast. I mean, Terran versus Protoss, just picking a matchup. You think, ooh, maybe there might be some sort of big warp gate push happening. Building a second bunker. Okay, maybe I didn't need to do that. But now I'm a little bit worried he's going to do a follow-up attack. Delaying the third command center. All these things add up so quickly. And I think against Violet, that's one player that you absolutely cannot have any lack of confidence in.
And the best way to reduce that potential amount of blunders is to reduce the amount of decisions, as we've seen Stefano do, because what do? Roaches.
And there you have Quantic SaSe. He is powered up with his hat. And of course, and now I just would like the crowd to be quiet for a moment for the fine femme being the role of the cheer cannon. Thank you.
Wow. That's solid coordinate. Did you guys work that out yesterday?
We actually didn't. There wasn't some secret underhanded deal where I was like, you're going to make the cast look so cool. Cheer right when I say to. No, she actually showed up. I think, did you bring a hat? She didn't.
Oh, unfortunate.
She will have to use the power of SaSe's hat, the greatest hat in all of esports.
I don't know, man. TB's got a pretty sick hat.
Total Biscuit does have an incredibly sick hat. You know, I actually want to just give a shout out to Total Biscuit for just being an awesome dude. Because Total Biscuit, I mean, does a ridiculous amount for the community and actually gave his hat away for charity. That is an emotional move to do.
Especially after spending so much time with it. You always, I mean, the metric system was practically replaced by using Total Biscuit hats.
All I know, Rob, is that I would never give Manfred away for charity. He will stay with me forever. He is not a donation. Yes, cheers for Manfred. My awesome rabbit. Now, you know, I want to talk a little bit about the map that they will be playing on Ohana again. I mean, for Ohana, or is it going to be Daybreak? We'll find out in a moment. It looks like they're still setting up their settings. Yeah, it looks like the map actually is going to be Daybreak that they'll be playing on. Now, Daybreak is a very, very large map, but with its size, you'd think, oh, you can play defensively. But there's so many places to hide those proxy pylons.
Right, and you always talk about how in PvP, it's just so dangerous to try to macro up, especially if you have an opponent that's going to play funky and mix things up for you.
Yeah, and I mean, especially considering the strategies we've been seeing on Daybreak, perhaps the most popular one as of late is a very fast 2-gate expand. You get out the 3 Stalkers, and then you build the Nexus, and then you have just enough time to build 2 sentries. Warp gate finishes, you warp in another 2 sentries. So you have this kind of odd little bit of damage output with your Stalkers, and then you have all these sentries there to sort of zone, and you're desperately trying to get out a very, very fast Immortal to deal with anything. And even if your opponent isn't going to Blink Stalker heavy, you still have an early expansion.
And now, if you're expecting your opponent to do this, what are things that you would want to do to try to crack that opening?
I mean, the biggest thing is to just go for a longer-term play yourself. I mean, there are ways to do some huge harassment with Blink Stalkers, but if you overcommit, you just lose right then and there. And we even saw, actually, SaSe take a game down off JYP, being able to just essentially eliminate all the early threats and win that huge long-term macro game. Now, it does sound like Squirtle versus Violet might still be going on. We do see Violet still there at his computer. Squirtle just stepped out of the booth for a moment. And we see Bomber getting set up for his match against Teja. And, you know, since we are just sort of in this interlude where we're waiting for MC to get set up, let's talk a little bit about that Bomber-Teja match coming up. I mean, you got the chance to cast Teja versus Thorzane. Tell us a little bit about how the Thorzane-Teja games went when you casted with Husky.
Well, typically when Teja plays TVT, he just doesn't lose anything. We also saw that repeatedly. He was completely confident in... Oh, sorry,
Can you explain a little bit about that? He doesn't lose anything. I mean, is he doing a lot of harassment? Is he pushing a lot with small numbers of units?
Yeah, we actually saw him using lots of Hellions, quite a bit,
Oh,
which was a
interesting.
little bit surprising. But
Not Blue Flame at all, just regular Reactor Hellion?
Yeah. Well, we saw one game where he just used Reactor Hellions, and another game where he instead decided to mix it up and did indeed opt for the Blue Flame. Now, in that particular case, there was a bit of a role reversal. Thorzane ended up building a whole lot of Marines, and really those the Blue Flame Hellions were just able to fry right through.
Wow. And I mean, like, was Teja sticking more mech throughout the games or using a variety of style?
He was willing to bounce back and forth. We actually saw them switch roles a couple times, each opening with a Banshee in their own respective game.
Within the game, he was switching
No.
compositions? Oh.
No.
Freaked
Through the
me out.
series. Yeah.
He just lifted all the barracks and threw down like 10
changed it.
factories and was like, I'm going to build a round of tanks. Lifted all those and landed the barracks again and got ghosts. And there we see SaSe getting set up. Does seem ready to play this game.
Now, yesterday, talking about Bomber, you were able to cast a few of Bomber's matches because you stayed
Bomber's
here
been
during
looking-
the crazy marathon cast.
Oh, God, Bomber has been playing just immaculately. It is just incredible to see the level of play coming out of Bomber. His 3-base plays, his builds aren't just these boring, blunt macro builds where you expand and get upgrades and push at 20 minutes. No, he is doing triple expo and then following it up with 12-minute timing pushes that are very, very thinly constructed, but still extremely effective. And even his long-term play is extremely powerful as well. And it looks like both players are in the game. So it's time to start quarterfinal number 3 between Quantic SaSe and SKMC.
That's right, so game number 1 is going to be on Daybreak, like we said.
And it looks like both players are ready, so let's start the game. And there it is, going in. Daybreak, SKMC versus Quantic SaSe. If you're a fan of SaSe, give a cheer for him.
And those of you out here representing the Obama Toss, give a cheer for MC.
And in the top right corner, we do have spawning as the blue Protoss. It will be SKMC. And down in the bottom right, the Hat Protoss. And of course, known for his extremely unorthodox build, it is Quantic SaSe. And I already want to point out the interesting decisions that he makes with these probes where he stops them and then makes sure that they pair up exactly on all these nearby mineral patches just to make sure that he has maximum income at the start of the game.
Oh man, and those probes have a mind of their own, some of them just splitting off. Now, over time, that actually does add up significantly. And especially if you're in a mirror matchup, any amount of seconds that you can get out your units just a little before your opponents, the better.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's always good to just get a few extra minerals, specifically in the PvP matchup, because so much turmoil happens right around 6 minutes when both players finish up their Warp Gate research. And then what that means is that if you have even a 5 to 10 second edge, I can hit your units as you're warping in and break your ramp.
Well, and right now it's seemingly already adding up for SaSe. He does have about a 5 to 6 second lead on getting out his probes.
Yeah.
Although that could have been because, no, they both used the same amount of chrono boost as well.
Yeah, I mean, SaSe just getting those little, slight, tiny advantages in every single circumstance. Now, I'm really curious to see the gas timings coming down for both players. We see a little bit of a delayed gas coming out of SaSe. MC getting a pretty typically timed, guys are going down. And the early 2-base play, I do think, could come out from certainly one of the players in this best of 3. It is so popular, the 3 Stalkers straight into expand. And SaSe, per usual, likes to take 2 early geysers and do this interesting rally in to have 2 in each gas.
Now, having those 3 Stalkers that early can actually just be so good, especially when both of these players are so sick at control. We've seen just how far you can stretch a Stalker's true potential when in the right hands.
Yeah, I mean, just the amount of damage you can do, we've seen so often in all the matchups. And wow, look at this. 3 in both geysers very early on. This generally indicates a Dark Templar play. So that way, since you can't have the 2 gates out early, it does look like he is getting the early Zealot. And yeah, both players will be going for 2 gas plays, forced to make that early Zealot so they don't lose to an early push.
And so, of course, SaSe is just a little bit further ahead on that second assimilator. Now, I want to see whether or not MC does end up completely filling up both of his assimilators with probes as well. because that gas collection is going to be a pretty good indication of what he's doing. Wow, and he opts for it as well.
Yeah,
oh,
MC going for the 2 in gas on the left, 3 in gas on the right. These are actually all very deliberate timings in the early game. Things are so fragile.
Oh,
Look at this.
Stargate.
SaSe going for Phoenix, allowing it to be scouted. That is
Yeah.
a very unusual decision.
Well, that
indeed.
Zealot's working really hard to try to stop the scout, but he just couldn't do it.
He just couldn't. He needed to run track in Zealot High School. He has now been cut, and that is an extremely early Stargate. And I mean, MC might just try to go into an all-in 4-gate to try to crush this, or he might go for a little bit more economic 3-gate push. Either way, I mean, SaSe is going to have a very carefully constructed defense, and he cancels the Stargate. Oh, wow, that is some serious craziness coming out of SaSe, and there SaSe getting some nice initial hits, bringing that Stalker down to 5 life off its max.
Being able to land just a couple of those Zealot swipes on the Stalker is just so good, but it seems that SaSe, in a lapse of judgment there, has now lost just so much HP on that Stalker. He's going to be forced to do an all-out retreat, but of course the second one gets in there, and he gets the first blood by taking down one of MC's Zealots.
Oh, what?
Oh, no.
What on earth is going on? We see a Stargate in MC's base. I mean, did MC scout the Stargate and said,
Oh, I'll do that
that's
too.
a good idea. I'm going to build some Phoenixes. I was looking for a PvP build. I figured I'd scout on 9, find out what you're doing, and just do that. Now it looks like MC going for this warp gate play. And a whiff. SaSe wanted to snatch those units right at the ramp.
Yeah, if he was just able to split them up a little bit. Actually, I mean, given the unit count and given that he also was able to warp in a couple of units, so he could have killed all. Oh, wow. He's actually just wants to make sure that MC has no way to see that he's canceled that Stargate.
Yeah, I mean, MC still thinks that there's a Stargate coming. But I'm real excited to see the way that MC is going to be playing this build out. The Phoenix, one of my absolute favorite units in StarCraft 2, so good at controlling space. But it's very rare that there's good positions to go for. Almost all players do go for Blink Stalker or go for Immortal in this matchup. MC is forced to get this robotics facility. You really do need those Immortals if you are devoting that much gas to Phoenix.
Wow, and now we see SaSe starting his expansion and also adding on his robotics bay simultaneously. Now we see that MC, he's not going to have a terribly high unit count here, and really those Phoenixes shouldn't be that effective as long as we see SaSe pull back his Stalkers and Sentries.
I mean, SaSe has managed to find the pylon, and there, nice play, angling right by those Phoenixes. SaSe now going to have to start warping in some Stalkers. Will he build the Forge and go for the cannon defense? Will he just rush on in? No, he is going to be picking off sentries. One sentry goes down. Oh, God, a huge investment.
That's a lot of gas to lose to those Phoenixes, and really the Phoenixes are just making themselves so much more worth it by picking off these units. Getting out there and picking up yet another Stalker. MC is just laying on the hurt.
What the hell? How did you cast these players? 2 Stargates going down for SaSe?
He needs to play catch-up in the Phoenix count?
I mean, and there it looks like MC is going to get a look at the 2 Stargates. I mean, I know he saw them, but I mean, if I'm going Phoenix here, I'm going to be so focused on the micro that I might not even click on these 2 structures. Just thinking, yeah, it's probably Twilight Council or a Warp Gate or something along those lines, but SaSe is just blowing everyone's mind with the double play, and there's the Nexus going down, and it looks like a big attempted push. He's going to get the force field at the ramp.
Oh, man, stopping SaSe from being able to defend his expansion. And now those Phoenixes actually likely aren't going to be done in time to finish this up. I want to know how much energy that Sentry has left. Oh, not enough to force field once again, so he is on a bit of a timer here, so it's going to be a race. It's going to be very close as this force field works.
Huge swell of units from MC, and SaSe will lose the expansion. And there it goes down. MC takes a big lead.
Yeah, MC in there with the great timing, following up with that forward pylon, also warping in. Now here the Phoenix truly are reaching their full potential as they lift off all of those Stalkers as MC's ground force continues to burn through.
And it looks like MC will win the air battle by the skin of his teeth. But now with these extra Phoenix popping out, it looks like SaSe starting to get a little bit more control in his main base, but this is an extremely difficult position for SaSe to be in.
Now MC has followed this up by working in some additional Stalkers, and there he is following straight through. And as these probes die left and right, SaSe's options and his lifeline are just running out quickly.
SaSe does put those probes to hold position to get a little bit of that micro edge, but he's warping in fewer stalkers than MC, who is just happily chrono boosting probes back in the main base. And I mean, SaSe's insane force field there might be enough to kill off these stalkers, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to save the game.
Yeah, even taking a look just at the income tab, just for a little bit, it's 16 workers compared to MC's absolutely massive 44, and now it seems like that force field just wasn't enough to buy him time because MC's assault has continued as SaSe has just lost too many probes. He's not able to keep up with MC's production any longer.
Now we see the stalkers marching in, kiting calmly. SaSe doesn't even have enough gas to build more and more stalkers. He's going to have to try to pick these off with some nice lifts. SaSe showcasing some incredible control, but still an impossible position to recover from. He's going to have to do some real magic with something.
I mean, now that he has lots of extra Phoenixes, maybe he can try to kill probes or something. Although we see MC is just piling on the Immortals back at home, pretty much just waiting to make his final push. You can see he's not even committing to warping into his full potential with that forward pylon. He's really just trying to keep on enough pressure so that SaSe cannot keep up his probe production.
Yeah, I mean, SaSe really is just going to be devoting almost all to just unit production, and when these Immortals step into play, that's when it's going to be lights out for SaSe.
There we go, and now MC is opting to finish the game. He's adding on those 5 gateways, as a matter of fact.
And, you know, I will say that SaSe's play was very much so giving his opponent credit for being able to read what was going on. I'm going to build a Stargate really early. Almost all players are going to respond in a small set of ways, almost all going for that very fast blink defensive play. But, I mean, after that cancel and Phoenix, or MC doing that little Phoenix play himself, that is a very surprising response to seeing your opponent kill Phoenix. I mean, you'll almost never have air control, but I mean, MC with a very nice counter read.
So SaSe's doing what he can with those Phoenixes. We saw him get over, and now he does see that MC just added on those 4 additional gateways and the Twilight Council, so he knows that Blink's going to be coming very soon.
And SaSe now trying to get into a good angle with these 2 stalkers, trying to find some way to just do at least a little bit of chipping against his opponent. 2 more Phoenixes. In the probe count, he is just now starting to kill off some of his opponent's probes. That is a lot of stalkers to deal with.
It's all right. These Phoenixes are so confident they're going to be able to kill 30 of those probes.
You know, I'm almost scared to open up this tab. 23 probes down for SaSe throughout the course of this game. Now going Immortal, Zealot, Sentry with these 2 Stargates. Does see that there are the Immortals there, but these take a long time to pick off. You do get the advantage of having the Phoenixes do 2 attacks at once, so that does mean that the Hardened Shell would not really kick in, but unfortunately the Immortals aren't even in the light damage type, so we'll never be taking that bonus damage. And SaSe looks like he's just going to be going for the big push, the Stargate, the Immortals, any big hard-hitting unit, but wow. Oh, gosh. Oh, and Blink
is done.
Oh,
He's able to blink
SaSe.
under, doesn't kill any of those Phoenixes. Yeah, SaSe is going to be in a rough spot here. This will undoubtedly be the final engagement as MC makes his march across the center of the map. Now, SaSe has placed the forward pylon so that he can try to keep up to the best of his ability, but really MC just has so many units.
I mean, MC just in a staggeringly good position. Just waiting to get into the good engagement. There is the big lift coming out of SaSe. But with fewer Immortals, fewer units of all types, SaSe gave it his all in a game that seemed unwinnable. And MC making sure that no mistakes happen. The good game from SaSe.
So MC taking game 1, showcasing why his Blink Micro is world-renowned.
And you know, I gotta admit that it's very, very easy to get super far behind after all that crazy switch, change, cancel, build the robo, cancel that, go for the 2 Stargate, that I almost think that SaSe undermined himself by just picking a build and going with it calmly.
Yeah, that was, I don't know, it was kind of rough for SaSe there. Also, MC did such a good job landing the force field, preventing SaSe from getting down to try to defend it anyway. Although, because MC continued to follow it up with units by delaying his own Nexus, I think that meant that SaSe would have had so much trouble even just killing the forces.
Yeah, I mean, MC, I think, is impressive with his willingness to attack, and anytime he sees that there's some sort of window, he'll just go for that extra bit of damage. I mean, especially, it's easy to convince yourself, no, I really should pull back, play a little bit more calmly, and macro, but literally throwing away 3 units at a time, 3 more units at a time, 3 more units at a time to keep SaSe from building those probes was a brilliant decision.
Yeah, he just wanted to get to that comfortable Immortal count and eventually got up to the Twilight Council as well so that he could have that blink. He wanted the sure win. Because, hey, we've seen SaSe pull off some crazy things.
And, you know, the next map will be Entombed Valley, which is an interesting choice by SaSe as it is a much smaller map. And I do think that the choice of Entombed Valley for SaSe implies that he has some build prepared.
Well, Entombed Valley is also a pretty crazy map to hide pylons and tech. So maybe we can see some secret builds prepared just for MC here.
And I'm hoping that we see a little bit longer term play. I really think that SaSe is excellent with his robo play, just because of his use of warp prisms, the way he transitions into getting the huge Colossus count, how comfortable he is getting the expansions up. And Entombed Valley is the sort of map that's really, really good for 3-base play. I mean, especially given the fact that if you just get some Colossus up, you can defend your 3 bases extremely calmly.
Yeah, and really, I want to see that Warp Prism play out of SaSe so badly, because that's one of the things that we've been talking about, that he will just stay so aggressive. And Entombed Valley could be the map to do it on.